Well, Brexit was never initiated in its entirety. We've always had Northern Ireland treated as a second-class citizen.
Because it has a land border with the EU.
The Windsor Framework, which puts the border down the Irish Sea, that leaves Northern Ireland in a constitutionally worse position, in a customs arrangement that isn't affected by this agreement with the EU, and nothing is changing for Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland has been left behind because of Brexit, and now Hilary Benn has come out with a lot of spin this week. He said nothing new in his interview there that he hasn't been saying from the start of the week. And we're now in a position where we're having to live with the cementing in of the Windsor Framework again.
So what's interesting, and I'm sure our viewers will have picked up on it, is we're talking to two unionists tonight who take not mutually opposed positions on this, but different positions on this issue and how we need to move forward from here at a time when Stormont is clearly struggling with a whole raft of decisions that need to be taken. If businesses say in future, Ron McDowell, this is pretty good, this is better than it was, and consumers see prices coming down and fewer empty shelves in their shops in future, then where do you take this issue?
Well, we didn't see the full fallout from Brexit or from the Windsor Framework either. The issues were still being released. We had issues with medicine as well. We had issues with a whole range of products coming into Northern Ireland that we didn't see reach its climate. They're still going to fall out from that because the Windsor Framework, the customs border, still exists in the Irish Sea, and Northern Ireland are still going to find it difficult putting themselves on an equal footing with the rest of the UK.
But hugely minimised, the Secretary of State says, much less visible than it has been up to now.
And how it has been minimised as a constitutional unionist is by backtracking on Brexit. They have now introduced a lot of those foreign EU laws into mainland UK policies as well, and we're now still being left behind in areas where the European Union has a final arbitrary of decision-making on a whole range of issues.
That's an issue for you because, with respect, you're a constitutional purist, but surely for a lot of businesses and a lot of consumers, they're not going to worry too much about that.
They will worry when we still have border posts, so they're still being built, when we still have extra costs and extra paperwork. He said it was a reduction in paperwork. It wasn't a doing away with paperwork. And a lot of the reasons that made people vote for Brexit in the first place was the amount of money that we were paying into the EU. And we're now signing up to an agreement through the Erasmus deal and perhaps through security, where the UK is going to be expected to pay hundreds of millions of pounds back into the European Union. And those were the reasons that people voted for Brexit in the first place.
Do you accept there's anything positive about Monday's announcement at all?
I think a lot of it could have been common sense policies in the past. There was some issues around security, some issues around travel visas, around airport security that could have been common sense, but it didn't need a reset deal. And this was not a reset deal. This was a backtracking of Brexit.
Britain's locked itself into following EU rules, but it'll have no say in writing those rules. Wasn't it, in fact, better to be in the EU helping to construct the rules back in the days when the UK was a rule maker rather than a rule taker? That's the reality, isn't it?
And that's why we never got Brexit. That's what we're still campaigning for today, is Brexit. Those 17 million people who were disenfranchised by this restart deal that we've had during the week.
So a harder Brexit is the answer?
So we never got Brexit. We never got Brexit in its entirety. We were offered a break from the European Union. The people in Northern Ireland didn't get that, and now England and Scotland and Wales are getting a taste of their own medicine.
So, well, here's an interesting question. Your party's got a strategic partnership with Reform. Would a Reform government rip up this deal and, as a result, potentially, increase the number of checks in the Irish Sea? Would you be happy about that?
Well, the campaign for TUV has always been the complete removal of the border in the Irish Sea. Now, where unionism goes from this, I don't know, because with such a grave constitutional question as we have before us now, we're hearing the voice of the TUV and we're hearing the voice of the Ulster Unionist Party. And whilst the Ulster Unionist Party might be different from our own, we at least respect where they stand and their clarity. Where people want to know is where the DUP and all this, who said they wouldn't go back to Stormont until they brought the protocol down. We've got the protocol. The DUP have went back to Stormont. Where do they stand in this agreement and why are they being quiet?
OK, you can give me